Right, welcome back to the channel, Geordie fans. Get ready to be booking those flights on Ryanair for European nights next season, because it's fair to say Newcastle are well on their way for Champions League football. Obviously, there's still a long way to go given the fact they've got 11 games left to play, same with Man United. But yeah, they're level on points now with United. They've gone into third after beating Eric Ten Hag's side by 2 goals to nil and getting their revenge for that Carabao Cup defeat a few weeks ago in that final at Wembley. And yeah, just an absolutely complete and absolutely brilliant performance from Newcastle overall, I think it's fair to say. And yep, I think that with the last 3 games now, they've won against Wolves at home, they've won against Nottingham Forest away, and now with a massive win over Manchester United, of course, who are their rivals in the top 4 race. And if Newcastle can play the way they did today and the way they played against Nottingham Forest that game before the international break on that Friday night football at the City Ground, they'll have absolutely no problem getting top 4. I fully believe that now. And yeah, they've just been absolutely brilliant in these last 2 games, especially today where they were absolutely unbelievable, absolutely dominated Manchester United off the park for the whole 90 minutes. And yeah, it shows in the stats from the game, because they had 22 shots on goal with less possession, of course, because it's obvious Man United do have a more possession based style of play under Eric Ten Hag than Newcastle do have under Eddie Howe. But it doesn't matter, because it works to absolute perfection, Eddie Howe, with this extremely direct and press orientated style of play. 3.57 expected goals to Man United's 0.43. And yet, like I said, 22 shots, 6 on target and 4 big chances, which is just absolute and pure domination from Newcastle, and fully deserved the win. And to be fair, I actually think the 2-0 scoreline flattered Man United. I really do, because I think if it wasn't for 1 or 2 absolutely top class saves from David De Gea and the fact that Newcastle squandered 2 or 3 really good chances as well, I think it could have easily been a 3 or 4-0 game, absolute bare minimum for Newcastle. And yet, like I said, they were absolutely unbelievable and unplayable today from United's perspective. And yet, to be fair, I just think Eddie Howe deserves so much credit. I mean, the job he's done, the style of play, like I said, so direct, so entertaining for Newcastle fans who really feed off it. And you see the players love playing for Newcastle, the fact that they rev up the fans every opportunity they get, and the Newcastle fans really buy into it. So it's just an absolutely perfect match. I think Eddie Howe's football and the Newcastle fan base, I think it's an absolute match made in heaven. And yeah, just the recruitment in general from Newcastle, I mean, it's absolutely brilliant. Alexander Isak, I said it, I did a video when Newcastle beat Nottingham Forest before the international break, if you want to go and check that out before this video, or after this video I should say. Alexander Isak, I mean, he cost them what, £62 million, and even still it looks like an absolute bargain, even though a lot of people at the time were saying that's a lot of money. But obviously Newcastle, they have money to burn, especially given the fact they've had a lot of shrewd business. But yeah, like I was saying, Alexander Isak, what an absolutely unbelievable player that guy is. Just the complete striker for Eddie Howe, and in any team in world football, to be fair. He'd start for a lot of teams in world football, I think it's fair to say. And the fact he's 22 years of age, I think is absolutely scary. He'll definitely be the main man up front for Newcastle in this new project in the long term. I think he's absolutely brilliant. He's got absolutely every single attribute you would want in a modern day striker, in terms of his link up play, his ability to drop deep and, you know, build up play and create space for attacking players like San Maximin and Almiron and even Jacob Murphy, for example. On the ball, his first touch is just absolutely impeccable, and you see that for the first goal. That first goal came from purely the first touch and technical elegance, I would say, of Alexander Isak. The way he takes that touch with his back to goal, spins his man, lays it off to Bruno, who puts it into the back stick for San Maximin, who heads it down for Joe Willock to score. And yeah, perfect example of the technical excellence, like I said. And yeah, as well, obviously, as a striker, he's well able to find the back of the net himself, like he showed with that brace against Nottingham Forest 2 weeks ago. So I just think he's got absolutely everything. Bruno Guimaraes, we won't even talk about him for too long, because obviously that job's been done well before I've done it in this video, and deservedly so, because he's an absolutely unbelievable player. And like Isak, I think has absolutely every aspect you would want from his position, in terms of his football IQ, his awareness of space, his ability off the ball, and then on the ball as well. Like I said, his football IQ, his passing range, his vision, yeah, just knows exactly what to do at the right time, Bruno Guimaraes. And yeah, just an absolutely brilliant player. Plays the 68 and the 10 role all at once to absolute perfection, which is just absolutely unheard of, to be honest. And yeah, just an absolutely brilliant player. And like Alexander Isak, I have little doubt will be a top class player for many years to come now in this Newcastle team. Then you look at Kieran Trippier, so much experience, and yeah, his football IQ has gone up tenfold, because it's no surprise whatsoever that in terms of shot creating actions per 90 in the Premier League this season, he is right up there with the top in terms of, you know, defenders, and he's even competing with a lot of attackers for that stat as well. He creates so many chances up front for Newcastle, and you can see, because he's given that license to obviously move more forward, where Dan Burn obviously sits a little bit behind most of the time and slots in to make a back three with Fabian Schär and Sven Botman, and obviously they do that really well. And yeah, just given so much license in this Newcastle team, especially with the leadership he offers, the experience, and obviously has gone up tenfold in his defensive ability, having worked under Diego Simeone at Atletico Madrid for a few years as well. So I think he was an absolutely unbelievable acquisition, Kieran Trippier, for Newcastle. I think that cannot be understated how good of an acquisition he was for Newcastle at the start of this new era. And I think one thing Eddie Howe deserves massive credit for as well is how he's developed these players that were already there at his disposal when he joined, like Sean Longstaff, who's just a key player now in that counter press for Newcastle, offers you bundles of energy in that midfield. I think Joe Willock, who obviously scored the goal today, his ability to drive forward with the ball and obviously his energy off the ball as well, I think is absolutely impeccable. San Maximin, who's just so explosive, so direct, and just one of those players that just gets fans off their seats, which is exactly what Newcastle fans want from him. And yeah, he's just so hard to defend against, and I think that was a perfect example today of his performance today. He absolutely skinned Diogo Dalot for the 70 odd minutes he was on the pitch for, and yeah, I just think he was absolutely unplayable once again, which he is when he's in that mood. So I think he's a real asset for any club to have, and Newcastle have one hell of a player on their hands, like I said, being so young as well. And look, I actually think one thing that Newcastle did really well from a tactical perspective today was how much men they absolutely poured onto the right hand side, which I think was one of the main reasons why Marcus Rashford was so silent in the game, to be fair. I think they really nulled the threat that Marcus Rashford obviously possesses. I seen the stat on Sky Sports where they were showing the stat for fewest touches in the game of any individual player, and Rashford was fairly high up on that list. And yeah, he did absolutely nothing in the game, Rashford, I think. Mainly down to how well Newcastle defended. I think their structure was brilliantly defensively and in midfield as well, and obviously up front. I think they were organised, they were resolute, and every single one of them knew their roles and executed them to absolute perfection. So I think from a tactical perspective, I think it was absolutely second to none for Newcastle today. And yeah, onwards and upwards for Newcastle. 11 games left in this season, 11 finals for them, which is the key phrase that will come into play for pretty much every team that has something to play for at this stage of the season. And look, they'll fancy the chances against anyone, Newcastle. And yeah, I was thinking during the game, there's going to be not many young players in world football, or players in general in the world of football right now, that aren't going to want to play for this Newcastle team, given obviously playing under Eddie Howe, who's an up-and-coming manager still, who's really showing his excellence at Newcastle so far in his time at Newcastle, the crowd, the history of the club, and yeah, just the project overall with the financial backing they have and the projection of the club overall. I think that there's going to be not many players that aren't going to want to play for this Newcastle team for years to come, and that's got to be an exciting prospect for the fans. And yeah, just what a club Newcastle are. And yeah, the big question, do I think Newcastle will get top 4? You'll know, Newcastle fans, if you watched that video against Nottingham Forest that I made, I did say I don't think you will, because I thought maybe there'd be an element of you tensing up, especially like we've seen in the mid part of the season where there was a lot of 1-1 draws, a lot of games where you failed to kill teams off or whatever, and did kind of, you know, act like a deer in the headlights maybe, where you kind of tensed up in those games, like I said. But I think you're hitting form at the right time, and to be honest, I think that performance today from Newcastle has really swayed my opinion, and I do think that Newcastle will go on to get top 4 now. I think it'll be them and United, especially given the problems at Spurs, the problems at Liverpool. I don't think Liverpool will be able to make up that ground in time. Brighton are obviously a shout, but I think that they will kind of tense up, and I don't think they'll have enough quality and mentality upstairs to be able to, you know, see it through and get top 4 in the end. So yeah, I'm changing my opinion. I'm going to back the Geordies. Newcastle, I think, will qualify for the top 4 with Man United and obviously Man City and Arsenal as well. So yeah, Geordie fans, get on Ryanair, book them flights, because you will be playing against the world's elite next season, in my personal opinion anyway. So yeah, I think that'll be that for this video. So yeah, Newcastle fans, I'm sure you'll be happy with the way I'm talking about you guys in this video, but I'm not even saying it just to impress you. It's just genuinely how I feel about Newcastle, and yeah, what an absolutely exceptional project that you've got yourselves in the next few years. And yeah, absolutely lap it up, 100% lap it up to the absolute maximum, like of course Newcastle fans have been doing. So yeah, Newcastle, it's a good time to be a Newcastle fan, I think it's fair to say. Not a Chelsea fan though, of course. So yeah, Geordie fans, leave a like on the video, help a brother out in this one, because we are looking to hit 2,000 subscribers on this channel as soon as we possibly can. So if you could subscribe to the channel and like the video, that would be absolutely humongously appreciated. And yeah, I'll see you guys in my next video, and yeah, chat to you later.